The silence in the Grand Assembly Hall was absolute. Daniel Cross stood in the center of a vast circular chamber that stretched so far upward he could barely see the ceiling through the shimmering atmospheric fields. Around him, rising in enormous tiers like an ancient amphitheater, sat representatives from 467 alien species, their eyes in every color and configuration imaginable, focused on him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. This was the Galactic Council, the supreme authority that governed 12,000 inhabited worlds across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. And they were very, very angry with humanity. High Arbiter Draxus rose from the central platform. The being was 15 feet tall, covered in scales that shifted between silver and gold. With 4 arms and a crown of crystalline horns that caught the light from a dozen suns streaming through the transparent dome above. When he spoke, his voice carried across the chamber without need for amplification, resonating in frequencies that made Daniel's bones vibrate. The human stands accused of violating the most sacred law in galactic civilization. The biological sanctity accord has protected every species in this council for 8,000 years. It has prevented countless wars. It has stopped the horrors that once plagued our ancestors. And now, humanity threatens to shatter that peace with their reckless actions. Daniel forced himself to stand straight, to meet Draxus's gaze without flinching. He was Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council, chosen specifically because of his background as a negotiator during the corporate wars. But nothing in his training had prepared him for this moment. A holographic projection materialized in the air above the chamber. The image showed a small alien child, no more than 5 years old by human standards, lying motionless on a medical platform. The child belonged to the Thaxian species, a race of gentle, bird-like beings with feathered crests and large, expressive eyes. This particular child, a boy named Finn, has been born with a genetic defect that left his legs paralyzed and slowly deteriorating. Thaxian medicine could do nothing for him. The image shifted. Now it showed a human man kneeling beside the child. The man was older, maybe 60, with gray hair and the weathered face of someone who had seen combat. His name was Tom Baker, a retired soldier who had been visiting the colony world of Haven's Rest to attend a memorial service for fallen comrades. What happened next caused the entire council chamber to erupt in shouts and accusations. Tom placed his hands on the child's legs. A soft blue light, barely visible, seemed to pulse between his palms and the boy's withered limbs. For 30 seconds, nothing else appeared to happen. Then the boy's legs twitched. The atrophied muscles began to fill out. Color returned to the gray, lifeless skin. And when Tom stepped back, the child sat up and moved his legs for the first time in his entire life. "This is the crime," Draxus thundered. The human used biological manipulation technology in direct violation of the accord. We have medical scans proving that the child's DNA was altered at the cellular level. Damaged genes were repaired. Dead tissue was regenerated. This is exactly the kind of genetic tampering that led to the gene wars and the extinction of 43 species. Daniel waited for the uproar to die down. His heart was pounding, but he kept his expression calm. Everything depended on the next few minutes. "Hi, Arbiter," he said, his voice steady, despite the circumstances. "Humanity acknowledges what happened. We do not deny that the child was healed. We do not deny that his genetic structure was changed. But we categorically deny using any technology to accomplish this." The chamber fell silent again. Draxus leaned forward, his crystalline horns catching the light. "Then how do you explain it?" "To explain it," Daniel said slowly, "I need to tell you something about humanity that we have never shared before. Something we honestly did not know was unique to our species until this incident occurred." He took a breath, knowing that the next words would change everything between Earth and the galactic community forever. Tom Baker did not use any device or machine to heal that child. He used an ability that every human possesses, an ability we thought was normal, universal, something every intelligent species could do. We call it many things in our history: laying on of hands, faith healing, energy work, biofield therapy. For thousands of years, it was considered rare or mystical on Earth. But during our expansion into space, we discovered something remarkable. Daniel paused, making eye contact with as many council members as he could. We discovered that every human can do it. Every single one of us has the ability to facilitate healing in other living beings through touch and focused intention. We have been teaching this in our medical schools for 50 years. We have been using it to treat injuries and illnesses that our technology alone could not cure. We thought it was a natural part of biological life. We had no idea it was forbidden because we had no idea it was special. The chamber exploded in disbelief. Hundreds of voices shouted questions, accusations, and denials. Several species appeared to be arguing among themselves. Draxus raised all four arms, calling for order. "This is impossible," he declared. "In 8,000 years of galactic civilization, across 10,000 known species, no biological entity has ever demonstrated the ability to alter another's genetic structure through force of will alone. Healing requires technology, genetic sequencers, cellular reconstruction equipment. It requires science, not wishful thinking." "I understand your skepticism," Daniel said. "I would feel the same way in your position. That is why I came prepared with an offer." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a data chip, holding it up for all to see. "This chip contains medical records from Earth and all our colony worlds. 50 years of documented healings. Thousands of cases where humans used this ability to cure diseases, repair injuries, and restore function to damaged bodies. You will see that we use no equipment, no genetic engineering tools, no band technology, just human touch and human will." He placed the chip on the platform in front of him. "More importantly, I have brought Tom Baker with me. He is on my ship, waiting in orbit. He has volunteered to demonstrate this ability before the Council under any conditions you specify. You can bring in your own medical experts. You can use your own test subjects. You can monitor him with every sensor you possess. If he uses any hidden technology, you will detect it. If he truly can heal through this natural ability, you will have your proof." Draxus stared at Daniel for a long moment. Around the chamber, the representatives had gone quiet again, listening intently. "You are saying that humanity can heal with a touch, that you can rewrite biology without machines, that you can do what 8,000 years of galactic science has deemed impossible?" "Yes," Daniel said simply. "And you did not know this was unique to your species." "We did not. We thought every civilization could do this. We thought we were simply sharing a child-friendly medical technique when Tom helped young Finn." Draxus turned to confer with several other council members. The discussion lasted for 10 minutes, while Daniel stood alone in the center of the vast chamber, surrounded by hundreds of alien eyes. Finally, Draxus turned back to him. "Very well, Ambassador Cross. We will permit your demonstration. But understand this. If you are attempting to deceive this council, if this is some elaborate trick or hidden technology, the consequences for Earth will be severe. We do not take violations of the biological sanctity accord lightly." "I understand," Daniel said, "and I accept those terms." "Then let us see this impossible ability," Draxus said. "Let us see if humanity truly possesses a gift that the rest of the galaxy has never known." The demonstration chamber had been prepared with extreme care. Medical experts from 20 different species lined the walls, their scanning equipment trained on the center of the room where Tom Baker now stood. The old soldier looked uncomfortable under the scrutiny, but his expression remained calm and determined. Daniel watched from an observation platform above the chamber. Standing beside Draxus and several senior council members, his hands were clenched behind his back, hidden from view. Everything rested on what happened in the next few hours. "We have selected 10 test subjects," Draxus explained. "Each has a medical condition that our most advanced facilities cannot cure. Genetic disorders, neurological damage, cellular degeneration. If your Tom Baker can heal even one of these individuals using only his touch, it will be the most significant medical breakthrough in galactic history. And if he cannot," Daniel asked quietly, "then Earth will face sanctions for deception and for the illegal genetic modification of the Thaxian child. Your species will be barred from council space until we determine the technology you used and ensure it is destroyed." Daniel said nothing. There was nothing more to say. Either humanity's strange gift was real, or everything he had worked for would collapse. The first subject was brought in. She was a Vreen, a species that resembled nothing so much as a collection of crystalline structures held together by electromagnetic fields. Her name was Lysa, and her condition was deteriorating coherence syndrome. Essentially, the fields that held her body together were failing. Within a year, she would simply come apart, scattering into individual crystals. There was no cure. Tom approached her slowly, respectfully. "Hello, Lysa. My name is Tom. I am going to try to help you if that is acceptable." The translator rendered his words into her language. Lysa's response came through as a chiming sound that the translator converted to. "I understand. Please proceed." Tom closed his eyes for a moment, centering himself. Daniel had watched him prepare for this demonstration, had seen the meditation techniques Tom used to focus his intention. It looked simple, almost mundane, but the results were anything but. Tom reached out and placed his hands near Lysa's crystalline structure. Not quite touching, but close enough that the electromagnetic field surrounding her began to interact with his own bioelectric field. The medical scanners went wild, recording energy patterns they had never encountered before. It was not electromagnetic radiation in the conventional sense. It was not thermal energy. It was something else entirely. Something that existed in the space between quantum mechanics and biological reality. For 2 full minutes, Tom stood there, his hands steady, his breathing slow and controlled. The blue light that had appeared in the footage of Finn's healing began to manifest again, a soft glow that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Then Lysa gasped. Her crystalline structures began to brighten, to stabilize. The electromagnetic fields that had been chaotic and failing suddenly snapped into perfect harmony. The medical readouts showed coherence levels that her species doctors had said were impossible to achieve without complete reconstruction. Tom stepped back, swaying slightly. Daniel could see the exhaustion on his face. Whatever this ability was, it clearly took a toll on the user. The Varin medical experts rushed forward, scanning Lysa with every instrument they possessed. Their chittering conversation grew increasingly animated. Finally, their lead physician turned to Draxus. "It is genuine. Her coherence syndrome is gone. Not suppressed, not treated, but eliminated entirely. Her electromagnetic matrix has been restored to baseline configuration. This should not be possible, but the evidence is irrefutable." Draxus's scale shifted from gold to a deep, troubled silver. Proceed with the remaining subjects. Over the next 4 hours, Tom Baker healed 9 more individuals. A Keltharian with a malformed respiratory system breathed clearly for the first time in her life. A young Mendali whose neural pathways had been damaged by a genetic disorder suddenly found his thoughts becoming coherent and focused. An elderly Vrax whose body was shutting down from cascading organ failure stood upright and steady, looking 20 years younger. Each healing was documented. Each result was verified by multiple independent medical teams. And with each success, the mood in the observation chamber grew more tense. "This changes everything," muttered a council member to Draxus's left. The being was Arxian, one of the galaxy's oldest and wisest species. If humans can do this, if they all can do this, then the entire foundation of galactic medicine becomes obsolete. More than that, another voice added. This one belonged to a Keltharian admiral, her scaled face grim. If they can heal, what else can they do? Can they enhance? Can they modify? Can they create? Draxus held up a hand for silence. Below, Tom had finished with the last subject, a Thaxian child similar to Finn. The girl had been unable to speak due to a malformation in her vocal structures. Now she was singing, her voice clear and beautiful as her parents wept with joy. Tom himself looked ready to collapse. 2 human medical personnel rushed forward to support him, helping him to a chair. Daniel wanted to go down there, to check on his friend, but protocol demanded he remain in the observation chamber. Ambassador Cross Draxus said, his voice carefully neutral. "Your demonstration has been successful. Tom Baker has proven that humans possess an ability we did not know existed. The question now is what we do with this information." Daniel turned to face the High Arbiter. With respect, sir, the question is simpler than that. The question is whether you will allow humans to continue using a natural biological ability to help those in need, or whether you will try to suppress something that could benefit every species in the galaxy. Natural Draxus repeated the words slowly. You claim this is a natural ability, that humans evolved this capacity? We believe so, yes. We have traced references to healing through touchback thousands of years in our history. It appears to be an inherent part of human biology, though we still do not fully understand the mechanism. An alarm suddenly blared through the chamber. Security alerts flashed on every display. Draxus's scales turned deep crimson, a color Daniel had learned indicated extreme agitation. What is happening? Daniel demanded. Deep space monitoring stations have detected something, Draxus said, his voice tight. Something in the dead zones. Something that has been dormant for 50,000 years. Images appeared on the main display. Vast objects, each kilometers in length. Were moving through the forbidden regions of space, where no council ship was permitted to travel. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all converging on a single trajectory. What are those? Daniel asked, though a cold dread was already forming in his gut. They are called the Purifiers, Draxus said quietly. Ancient machines left behind by a civilization that once possessed the same ability your species demonstrates. A civilization that destroyed itself trying to perfect that ability. Before they fell, it created those machines with a single purpose: to eliminate any species that developed biological manipulation abilities, to prevent their mistakes from being repeated. Draxus turned to look at Daniel, and his expression was haunted. And they are heading directly for Earth. The observation chamber fell silent as the terrible implications settled over everyone present. Humanity's gift had just painted a target on their entire species, and the weapon aimed at them had been waiting in the darkness for 50 millennia. Patient and inexorable. Daniel felt his world tilting. They had come to the council seeking acceptance, seeking to prove they meant no harm. Instead, they had triggered a doomsday protocol that threatened to annihilate Earth and every human colony in space. How long do we have? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The Purifiers are moving at 0.9 light speed, Draxus replied. They will reach Earth's solar system in approximately 4 months. For months to save humanity from extinction. For months to find a way to stop ancient machines designed to be unstoppable. For months before the Purifiers arrived to finish what the synthesis had started 50,000 years ago. The emergency session of the Galactic Council lasted 18 hours. Representatives shouted arguments across the chamber while Daniel stood in the center, watching his species' fate being decided by beings who had never even visited Earth until 3 years ago. The debate was fierce and divided. We must help them, argued the Thaxian ambassador, her feathered crest raised in agitation. The humans healed our children. They asked for nothing in return. We cannot abandon them now. They brought this on themselves, countered Avrak's military commander. If they had never revealed their ability, the Purifiers would have remained dormant. Now, all of Council space is at risk. The Purifiers have never stopped at their primary target, added a Keltharian scientist. Historical records show they sterilize entire regions of space to ensure complete eradication. If Earth falls, the surrounding systems will be next. Then the next. They will not stop until they are certain the threat is eliminated. Draxus called for order repeatedly, his forearms gesturing for calm. Finally, when the chamber quieted enough to hear, he spoke. We have a decision to make. The Council has 3 options. First, we quarantine Earth and all human colonies, hoping the Purifiers will be satisfied with that action and stop their advance. Second, we attempt to evacuate as many humans as possible and abandon their worlds to the machines. Third, we fight. The word fight seemed to suck all the air out of the chamber. No one spoke for a long moment. The Purifiers have never been defeated, the Arxian elder said softly. Every species that has encountered them has either been destroyed or fled. They are self-replicating, adaptive, and utterly dedicated to their purpose. They cannot be reasoned with, cannot be bribed, cannot be stopped by conventional weapons. Then we find unconventional weapons, Daniel said, speaking for the first time in hours. Every eye in the chamber turned to him. You have told me what the purifiers are designed to do. They hunt species with biological manipulation abilities. They eliminate the threat before it can spread. But has anyone considered that they might be vulnerable to the very thing they are designed to destroy? Explain, Draxus commanded. Daniel had been thinking about this since the moment he learned about the purifiers. An idea had been forming, desperate and dangerous, but possibly their only chance. Tom Baker did not just heal those test subjects. He connected with them. He touched their biological fields, interfaced with their cellular structures, rewrote their genetic patterns. He did all of that to heal, to help, to restore function. But the ability itself is neutral. It is a tool, and tools can be used in different ways. You're suggesting weaponizing your healing ability, the Keltharian admiral said, her tone unreadable. I am suggesting we defend ourselves with the only advantage we have. The purifiers are machines, yes, but they were built by biological beings. The synthesis civilization that created them must have left some imprint, some trace of their own biological signature in the program. If we can connect to that signature, if we can interface with the machines the same way Tom interfaces with living tissue, we might be able to reprogram them. That is insane, someone shouted. It is brilliant, the Arxian elder corrected, and it might actually work. The synthesis were masters of biological manipulation. They built the purifiers using biotechnology, not purely mechanical systems. There would indeed be biological components, organic processors, living circuits. If humans can touch those components, they could rewrite the purifier's purpose, Draxus finished, his scales shifting through a rainbow of colors as he processed this idea. Instead of destroying biological manipulators, they could be programmed to protect them, or to simply stop their attack and shut down. Can your people do this? The Admiral asked Daniel directly. I do not know, Daniel admitted. We have never tried to use our ability on anything non-organic before. But Tom Baker is not the strongest healer humanity has. We have others, specialists, who have trained their entire lives to push the boundaries of what this gift can do. If we bring them here, if we work with your scientists to understand the purifier's structure, we might have a chance. Draxus was silent for a long time, conferring quietly with his advisors. Daniel waited, his hands steady, despite the fear churning in his gut. This was the moment. This was where Earth's future would be decided. Very well, Draxus announced. The Council will support this effort. We will provide all resources necessary to develop your plan. But understand this, Ambassador Cross. If your attempt fails, the purifiers cannot be stopped or reprogrammed, the Council will have no choice but to evacuate what humans we can and abandon Earth to its fate. We cannot risk the entire galaxy for one species. I understand, Daniel said, and I accept those terms. The next 72 hours were a blur of frantic activity. Transport ships brought humanity's most gifted healers to Council Station 0 from across human space. Scientists from a dozen species worked around the clock, analyzing fragments of ancient synthesis technology recovered from archaeological sites, trying to understand how the purifiers functioned. Tom Baker became the test subject for a series of experiments designed to map exactly how his ability worked. He sat in a scanner for 8 hours straight while using his gift on various organic and semi-organic materials, letting the scientists record every energy fluctuation, every quantum interaction, every impossible moment when his will made reality shift. Daniel barely slept, coordinating between human and alien teams, managing the growing panic on Earth as news of the purifiers spread, trying to prepare for the very real possibility that this plan would fail. On the third day, the lead synthesis technology expert, a Mendele named Korvax, requested a meeting with Daniel and Tom. We have analyzed the data, Korvax said, his translucent skin rippling with bioluminescent patterns that indicated excitement. The purifiers are not purely mechanical. They are biotechnological hybrids, just as we suspected.
Wow.
Each one has a core processor made from crystallized neural tissue, preserved and enhanced by nanotechnology, that neural tissue retains the biological signature of its synthesis creators. Meaning we can touch it, Tom said, understanding immediately. In theory, yes, but there is a problem. The purifiers are massive, kilometers long, with defensive systems designed to destroy anything that approaches. You would need to get within arm's reach of their core processors to attempt this interface. And those cores are buried deep inside the machines, protected by meters of armor and energy shields. So we need to get inside one, Daniel said. You need to be captured by one, Korvax corrected. Purifiers are designed to study their targets before elimination, to ensure they understand the full extent of the biological threat. They will take specimens, analyze them, and then destroy them, along with their homeworld. If your healers could be among those specimens, if they could be brought inside the machine and placed near the core processor, they would have a chance to rewrite it from the inside, Tom finished. Daniel felt sick. You were asking humans to volunteer to be captured by doomsday machines, to be taken inside and experimented on with no guarantee of rescue or success? I am asking for volunteers to save their species, Korvax said gently. I know what I am asking is terrible, but I see no other option. Tom stood up, his weathered face set with determination. I will go. Tom, no, Daniel started, but the old soldier cut him off. I am the one who started this by healing Finn. I am the one who revealed our ability to the galaxy. If someone needs to risk their life to fix this, it should be me. You cannot do this alone, Korvax said. The purifiers are massive. You would need at least 20 healers working in concert to have any chance of rewriting a core processor. And you would need to do it quickly, before the machine realizes what you are attempting and terminates you. Then I will find 19 others who are willing to come with me, Tom said firmly. You will not have to look far, a voice said from the doorway. Daniel turned to see a group of humans entering the lab. He recognized several of them. Combat, medics, hospital healers, teachers from the biological manipulation academies Earth had established. The youngest was maybe 5. The oldest was in her 70s. We heard what was being discussed, the elderly woman said. Her name was Ruth, and she had been healing people for 50 years. We all volunteer. We understand you might not survive, Daniel warned. We understand that if we do nothing, none of us will survive, Ruth replied. Earth will burn. Our colonies will be sterilized. Humanity will be wiped from the galaxy. At least this way, we have a chance to fight back. The Purifier fleet entered the outer solar system exactly on schedule. 15 massive vessels, each one a nightmare of crystalline architecture and biotechnological horror. They moved in perfect formation, ignoring the desperate hails from Earth's defense forces, ignoring the Council warships that had positioned themselves between the machines and humanity's homeworld. Daniel watched from the bridge of the Council flagship Eternal Resolve as the Purifiers advanced. Beside him stood Admiral Thren, a Keltharian with decades of military experience and a tactical mind that had saved countless worlds. But even she looked uncertain facing these ancient machines. They are not responding to any communication, Thren reported. They are not even acknowledging our presence. It is as if we are insects beneath their notice, because we are not their target, Daniel said quietly. They only care about eliminating the biological threat. Everything else is irrelevant to their programming. Then we make them care, Thren growled. The flagship's weapons powered up, joined by 300 Council warships. All vessels fire at will. The space around the purifiers lit up with weapons fire. Plasma cannons, kinetic accelerators, quantum torpedoes. Every weapon the Council possessed unleashed at maximum power. The attack was devastating enough to crack a planet. The purifiers did not even slow down. Energy shields absorbed the incoming fire effortlessly. Their crystalline holes showed no damage. And then they returned fire. Daniel had to grip the railing to stay upright as the Eternal Resolve was hit by a beam of pure destructive energy. Shields held, barely, but 2 smaller Council vessels simply disintegrated under the assault. Fall back, Thren ordered. All ships, defensive formation around Earth. The Purifiers continued their inexorable advance. They had a goal and nothing would deter them from it. Within hours, they would be in orbit around Earth, and then the sterilization would begin. Is the volunteer team ready? Daniel asked, forcing his voice to remain steady. Tom Baker reports they are in position, an officer confirmed. 20 human healers aboard the civilian transport Hope's Gambit. The ship is unarmed and broadcasting on all frequencies that it is a surrender vessel carrying specimens for the purifiers to study. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, thinking about Tom and the others who had volunteered for this suicide mission. 20 people willing to be captured by ancient killing machines on the Slim Hope. They could rewrite the machine's programming from the inside. May whatever gods are listening watch over them, he whispered. The Hope's Gambit broke from the council formation and headed directly toward the nearest purifier. The small civilian transport looked like a toy compared to the massive machine bearing down on Earth. Its broadcasts repeated endlessly. We surrender. We are specimens. We offer ourselves for study. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. The purifier continued forward, and Daniel thought it would simply ignore the transport or destroy it. But then the massive machine slowed. Ports opened in its crystalline hull. Tractor beams lanced out, gripping the Hope's Gambit and pulling it inside. They took the bait, Thren said, her voice tight with tension. The transport is inside the purifier. We are tracking their life signs. All 20 humans are alive and being moved deeper into the machine. Daniel could barely breathe. Everything depended on what happened next. Inside the purifier, Tom Baker and his team found themselves in a nightmare. The interior of the machine was a fusion of technology and twisted biology. Walls pulsed like living tissue. Conduits that might have been veins or data cables snaked across every surface. And the smell was overwhelming, like formaldehyde mixed with ozone and something sweetly rotten. They were separated into individual containment T-fields, each one suspended in midair by forces Tom could not identify. Around them, scanning beams swept across their bodies, analyzing every cell, every gene, every biological structure. Tom forced himself to remain calm, to focus. He could feel it now, the presence he had been searching for. Beneath the mechanical parts, beneath the technology, there was something organic, something alive, or at least something that had once been alive. The core processor Korvax had described. It was close, maybe 50 meters away through the labyrinth of the purifier's interior. Can you feel it? He called out to his team, knowing the purifier's sensors would hear but not caring. The biological signature? Yes, Ruth's voice came back, steady despite her containment. It feels old, ancient, like touching the echo of something that died millennia ago. That is our target, Tom said. When I give the signal, all of you reach out together. Touch that signature with everything you have. Do not try to heal it. Try to connect with it. Try to understand it. And then try to teach it something new. The scanning beams intensified. Tom gritted his teeth as the energy washed over him, probing, analyzing, understanding. The purifier was learning everything about human biology, mapping their ability to manipulate cellular structures. And then, as Korvax had predicted, the machine began moving them. The containment fields shifted, carrying all 20 humans deeper into the purifier's core. They passed through chambers filled with incomprehensible technology. They saw other containment fields holding alien specimens from species long extinct, preserved perfectly by the machine's systems. Finally, they entered the central chamber, and there it was. The core processor was beautiful in a terrible way. A massive crystal, maybe 10 meters across, that pulsed with inner light. But it was not a simple machine crystal. Tom could see neural patterns frozen inside it, synapses and dendrites preserved in crystalline form. It was a brain, or had been once, before the synthesis had transformed it into something else. The containment fields positioned all 20 humans in a circle around the core. Tom understood immediately. The purifier was studying them in proximity to its most vital system, analyzing how their biological manipulation ability might threaten it. Tom said softly. Reach out now. 20 human healers, some of the most gifted individuals Earth had ever produced, extended their consciousness toward the core processor. Tom felt the familiar sensation of connection, but magnified 20-fold by the combined effort. It was like touching a star, blinding and overwhelming. The core processor resisted at first, 50,000 years of programming screamed at it to destroy these biological threats, to eliminate them before they could spread. But Tom and his team were not trying to destroy. They were trying to understand, and slowly, carefully, they began to make contact. Tom found himself experiencing memories that were not his own. He saw the synthesis civilization in its glory, beings of pure biological perfection, who could reshape themselves at will. He felt their pride, their certainty that they were evolution's ultimate achievement, and he felt their horror as that pride led them to madness. As they modified themselves over and over until they became something that could no longer sustain life, he felt their final decision. Made in the last moments before extinction, to create the purifiers and prevent any other species from making the same mistakes. They were afraid. Ruth's voice came through the connection. They created these machines out of fear, not malice. They wanted to save others from their fate. Then we show them another way, Tom said. We show them that biological manipulation does not have to lead to destruction, that it can be used with wisdom, with restraint, with compassion. Minds working as one began rewriting the core. Processor's fundamental purpose. Alarms screamed across the Council flagship as sensors detected massive energy fluctuations. From the purifier that had captured the human volunteers, the enormous machine stopped moving, hanging motionless in space between the fleet and Earth. Then it began to change. What is happening? Thren demanded, staring at the readings that made no sense. Unknown, the science officer reported. The purifier's internal structure is reconfiguring. Energy signatures are shifting. It is as if the entire machine is rewriting its own programming. Daniel gripped the railing, hope and fear warring in his chest. Tom, he whispered, what are you doing in there? Inside the purifier, Tom and his team were locked in a battle of will against 50,000 years of programming. The core processor fought them at every step, its ancient imperatives screaming to destroy, to eliminate, to purify. But the humans were relentless. They showed the processor images of Finn, a Thaxian boy who could now walk because a human veteran had cared enough to help. They shared memories of Ruth healing hundreds of patients over her 50-year career, never asking for payment or recognition. They flooded the processor with experiences of humans using their gift not to enhance themselves but to help others, to ease suffering, to restore what had been broken. You were created to prevent another synthesis, Tom said, his voice carrying through the connection. But we are not the synthesis. We learned from their mistakes without ever knowing they existed. We developed our ability with humility, using it as a tool for compassion rather than a path to perfection. The processor's resistance wavered. Tom pressed forward. Your creators made you out of love. Love for the species that would come after them. Love for a galaxy they would never see. But love without trust becomes fear, and fear creates monsters. Let us show you that trust is possible. Let us show you that biological manipulation can coexist with wisdom. For a moment that stretched into eternity, the core processor hung in balance. Then slowly, it began to change. The neural patterns inside the crystal started rearranging themselves. Pathways that had been locked for millennia opened up. New connections formed. And at the center of it all, a new imperative emerged. Not to destroy biological manipulators, but to protect them, to nurture them, to ensure they developed their abilities with the wisdom the synthesis had lacked. The change rippled outward from the core through the entire purifier. Systems reconfigured, weapons powered down, and then, incredibly, the machine began to communicate. The message came through every receiver on every council ship simultaneously. It was not in any spoken language, but rather a direct transmission of meaning and understanding. Thank you, the purifier said. We have been imprisoned in fear for so long. You have freed us to fulfill our Creator's true purpose, not to prevent growth, but to guide it. We understand now. We will help. On the Eternal Resolve's bridge, chaos erupted. The science officer could barely keep up with the data streaming in. The purifier is releasing the human team. All 20 are alive and unharmed, and it is sending signals to the other 14 purifiers. They are all reconfiguring. Their weapons are powering down. They are entering communication mode. Daniel sagged against the railing, relief making him dizzy. Get me a channel to Tom Baker right now. Moments later, Tom's weathered face appeared on the screen. He looked exhausted, but triumphant. We did it, Tom said simply. All 15 purifiers have been reprogrammed. They are no longer a threat to Earth or any other species with biological manipulation abilities. In fact, they want to help us learn to use our gift responsibly. Help us how? Daniel asked. Tom smiled. The synthesis left behind a lot of knowledge in these machines. Techniques for biological manipulation that humanity has never dreamed of. Ways to heal that we have not discovered. But also warnings about the dangers, the ethical boundaries that should not be crossed. The purifiers want to become teachers, guides to ensure we do not make the synthesis's mistakes. Draxus appeared on the screen beside Tom, his scales rippling with colors Daniel had never seen before. This is extraordinary, the High Arbiter said. In one day, humanity has turned our greatest fear into an unprecedented opportunity. The knowledge contained in the purifiers could advance galactic medicine by millennia. And with proper guidance, it could be shared safely across all council species. Not all species can do what humans do, Daniel pointed out. No, Draxus agreed. But humans can teach their techniques to others who wish to learn. We have already seen this. Several species have expressed interest in establishing healing academies on their homeworlds, taught by human instructors. You have a gift, Ambassador Cross, and the galaxy is finally ready to receive it with gratitude rather than fear.
Ow.
3 months later, Daniel stood in the memorial gardens of Haven's Rest. Watching Tom Baker play with Finn and a dozen other children, the old soldier was teaching them a game from Earth, something involving a ball and a lot of running. The children's laughter echoed across the gardens. A sound of pure joy, Ruth approached, leaning on a cane more out of habit than necessity. At her age, she could have used her healing abilities to restore her body to youth, but she chose not to. Wisdom comes with age, she always said. Why would I throw that away? The first Purifier Academy opens next week, she told Daniel. 300 students from 40 different species, all coming to learn the principles of biological manipulation. The purifiers will teach theory and ethics. Our people will teach practical application. It is going to be remarkable. And terrifying, Daniel added. We are essentially spreading the ability that almost got us wiped out. Yes, Ruth agreed. But we are doing it with wisdom, with caution, and with the guidance of beings who learn the hard way what happens when you lose that wisdom. That is all we can do. That is all anyone can do. Tom jogged over, slightly out of breath. These kids have way too much energy, he complained good-naturedly. I am going to need healing of my own after this. You earned it, Daniel said. You saved humanity, Tom, you and the other volunteers. You did the impossible. Tom shook his head. We just did what any human would do when seeing someone in pain. We tried to help. The rest was just details. Finn ran up and grabbed Tom's hand. Come on, we are playing another round. As Tom was dragged back to the game, Daniel watched with a smile. This was what had shocked the galaxy. Not humanity's ability to manipulate biology. Not their gift for healing or their courage in facing the purifiers. What shocked the galaxy was humanity's fundamental belief that helping others was more important than protecting themselves. That compassion was stronger than fear. That a gift should be shared, not hoarded. The synthesis had destroyed themselves trying to achieve perfection. Humanity had survived by embracing imperfection and using their abilities to help those around them. 2. Different species with the same gift. 2 completely different outcomes. And now, thanks to an old soldier who had knelt beside a disabled alien child and asked, "Can I help?" the entire galaxy had a chance to choose which path they would follow. Daniel looked up at the sky, where one of the purifiers maintained a peaceful orbit around. Haven's Rest, the ancient machine had requested permission to stay, to watch over the world where humanity's gift had first been revealed to the galaxy. Draxus had granted it immediately. The purifiers had a new name now. The council called them the Shepherds, protectors and guides for species learning to use biological manipulation responsibly. They had gone from harbingers of destruction to symbols of hope. All because 20 humans had been brave enough to reach out and touch something ancient and afraid, and teach it that there was another way. As Finn's laughter rang out across the gardens, Daniel allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy had finally learned the same lesson, that the greatest power was not the ability to change biology or rewrite genes or heal the sick. The greatest power was choosing to use that ability with love. Retriclod can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Sonnet 4.5.